Our souls are made for goodness, truth, and beauty. And when we see God, we will behold infinite goodness and infinite truth and infinite beauty. We will be fulfilled with every desire. We will be perfectly happy. And every agent acts toward its end. Okay? Pens for writing, saws for sawing, eyes for seeing. And what is the end of man? What is our end? What is it, Rebecca?
Perfect happiness.
Perfect happiness. That's what we're made for. Okay? On this earth, we will achieve relative happiness by living what type of a life? What type of a life? Yes. A virtuous life. Okay? And we will be happy if we live a virtuous life. But I want to review one thing again that I brought up yesterday. Objective reality. What is objective reality when we're talking about objective reality rather than subjective reality? What is objective reality, Chris? What is it?
It is what is like true outside of our minds.
Outside of our minds, okay. We have objective reality. I'm going to draw some circles here. This is what my philosophy professor drew for me, and I'm going to draw it for you, okay? There's a circle. And in the circle is objective reality, okay? Objective reality. God, you could say, okay, three persons, one God, okay, one God, three persons. That's objective reality. Okay? That's an example of objective reality. And here, you notice the circle is intersecting, okay, is people's perceptions of objective reality. And this is subjective reality, okay? There's another way of saying it, okay? People's perceptions of objective reality. Now, I'm going to give you a demonstration right now. I'm turning this way, okay? And I could say no one is seated in any of the chairs in this room right now. I'm the only person in this room. Is my perception of objective reality in accord with objective reality? Yes or no? I'll call on Juan. Okay. I'll tell you. I'll call on. Maybe you didn't understand the question. Okay. I'll call upon Emma. Okay. If I say no one is in the classroom right now, I am the only one in this classroom. All the chairs are empty. Is my perception of objective reality in accord with objective reality, or out of whack with it?
No,
Which one, Emma?
It's out of whack.
It's out of whack. Why? Because objective reality is what? There are 28, or how many of our students here? We're missing a couple today. There are students seated back there. But if I perceive objective reality in the wrong way, well then my perception of objective reality isn't in accord with objective reality. That's my subjective reality. Okay? And there's another circle here I'm going to draw, which intersects with this. People's expressions of their perceptions of objective reality. Expressions. How do people express their perceptions of objective reality? Well, we have different philosophies, okay? There are different philosophies. Some are in accordance with truth, okay? In accordance with objective reality, okay? And some are not in in accordance with objective reality. Okay? If you have a philosophy that there are no moral rules to live by, I can make up my own moral rules to live by, well, you're not really expressing a philosophy in keeping with objective reality, or human nature, as we know it. In addition to philosophies, some of which may be in accord with objective reality, some may not be, we have religions. Okay? And I'm going to write here natural religions. Natural religions. Natural means they are conceived in the human mind. Okay? In the human mind. Some natural religions, for example, the Greeks had religion. They believed in many gods. Okay? The Romans had a religion that they thought up. Okay? Basically, the Romans stole from the Greeks. They just gave their gods different names, but they had the same system. They were polytheists, okay? Some other examples of natural religions. Okay? American Indians, okay? Native American. Buddhism. The Buddha went out into the world and saw suffering. He said, I've got to try to have an explanation for this. So he made up a system of a religion, of thought. Okay? Hinduism is another example. Okay? Hinduism has thousands and thousands of gods. Created, people just thought them up over the centuries. Okay? So the Greeks, the Romans, the Hindus, their expressions of objective reality, are they in accord with it? Well, is there one God, three persons in one God, or isn't there? Or are there thousands of different gods? Or, you say someone believes in the tooth fairy, okay? You have a tooth fairy religion. Okay? That's just going to an absurd example. Someone making up in their mind, I perceive objective reality. Everything's created by the tooth fairy, and so I'll have a religion based upon the tooth fairy. Well, if someone does this, their perception of objective reality is probably, we would agree, not in accord with objective reality. So we have to understand what we're talking about when we say objective reality, because that's important for us. Because people perceive things differently. And in philosophy and religion, I gave some examples there, we can get into morality though. And then people's perceptions of objective reality really differ. And well, I'm not going to get into that today, but just so you'll be aware that I'm going to use this example in the future, okay? So file it away. We have to know the difference between objective reality and people's perceptions of objective reality as their subjective reality. That's where differences come in. But today I'm going to get back to talking about virtue. I gave it a definition of virtue yesterday. And you can see. Because every agent acts toward an end, okay? We're all working toward an end. Our end is perfect happiness. And on earth, we attain happiness through a life of virtue. And when we use that term virtue, what do we mean? Kyle, do you know what virtue is? Did you write down the definition yesterday? What was it?
A good habit which gives the soul the power to act in accordance with right reason.
Okay. Virtue is a good habit which gives the soul the power to act in accord with right reason, or in accord with human nature adequately understood, okay? And in accord with good morality. Okay? The virtuous person is a moral person, not an immoral person. You call someone a virtuous person, you're calling them a good moral person, right? No. If you say that person is not virtuous, you're saying they're not a good moral person. They don't live by a good moral code of conduct. Okay? And the ancient Greeks, they realized this, and the Greeks and the Catholic thinkers who followed them, they came to a knowledge of the four principal natural virtues. I'll just say the four principles, the four important. Okay? Moral virtues. They're also called the cardinal virtues. Did Father Todd cover the cardinal virtues, the moral virtues with you last year? At all? Did he? Okay. Cardinal virtues comes from the Latin cardo. It means hinge. Okay. So there are the four cardinal virtues. Okay. The four cardinal virtues are the four virtues that the moral life is hinged on. Or dependent on. Okay. Can anyone tell me what the four cardinal virtues are? The four moral virtues. Do you remember from Father Todd's class? He would be proud, I'm sure, if yes.
Temperance.
What's one?
Temperance.
Temperance is one. Actually, it's you go in order. Usually there's an order to these. Okay. Temperance is usually the third one. Okay. Temperance is one. Okay. Temperance. The first moral virtue is what though? It's has to do with right thinking. Right thinking. If you make good judgments, what is that called? If you're a person that makes good judgment, what? Well, not quite. Something else. Prudence. 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 It's prudence is really an intellectual virtue. It's a moral virtue, but it concerns the intellect. Okay. Prudence, the virtue of prudence, is basically good judgments. Making good judgments. It's the power to make good judgments. Virtues are powers, okay? Power to make good judgments. For good and evil. To do good or avoid evil. Do good, avoid evil. If you're a prudent person, that's a compliment. Someone says, he's a very prudent person. They make good judgments. After prudence, second moral virtue.
Fortitude.
That's the last one, okay? That's the last one. They're usually listed, okay? The second one, I'll give you a hint. The title of this class has to do with it, okay? Does anyone ring a bell for anyone? The title of this class? What is the title of this class? What is it's what? What is the title of this class? It is the Catholic Church's what teaching?
Social doctrine.
Social doctrine. Okay. Okay. So it deals with social doctrine, or you could say justice. Justice. Social doctrine, which deals with social justice. Okay. What is justice? What is it? It's a virtue. But when we think of justice, what do we think of? If you're a judge, you want to render a just judgment in a case, right? You don't want to do injustice to someone. Okay? You don't want to do that. You want to bring justice. I used to prosecute people, criminals, and on a couple of occasions, the police officers came to me with evidence they thought showed that this person committed a crime. And then later on, I had doubts about it. So then I would dismiss a case. I did that on a couple of occasions. I thought, no, there's not enough evidence here to show that this person committed a crime. And I'm not going to prosecute someone just because, on a whim or something. You have to. What's the standard of proof in a criminal case? Does anyone know? You have to prove, if you're on a criminal jury, if someone committed a crime, what's the standard? Beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay? If this person committed this crime beyond a reasonable doubt, you cannot have a reasonable doubt. Well, I had a reasonable doubt sometimes. So in justice, I would say, well, I'm going to withdraw the prosecution from this case, or I won't even charge this person, even though the police officers thought this person may be guilty. No, that's just. Okay? That's just. So what is justice? Okay? Well, justice is defined as to give others, either God or man, okay, to give them their due. Okay? What is due to them? Their due. Okay? What's due? That's what justice is. To give others what is due to them. Why did I put God here? What does God have to do with justice in our lives? What do you think? We owe other people, to give them their due. We owe God to give God His due. How do we give God His due? In this life, what do we do to fulfill justice in regard to God in this life? We have to do some things. And anyone think what we should do in relation to God? Evan, are you thinking? I see the wheels turning. What? That's one thing, okay. We want to be reconciled with God if we've done something, okay. We go to confession. That's one example. Give me another basic example. Something that we should do every day, because God is our creator and we are His creatures. That what? It's pray. Yes, we have to pray. Okay? We owe God worship and adoration. We pray not for God's benefit. We pray for our benefit. For purposes of prayer, worship, adoration is the first. Acts. ACTS. For purposes of prayer. Adoration, contrition, thanksgiving, and supplication. Asking God for things. Petition God. For purposes of prayer. The first is worship and adoration. Sunday Mass is an obligation out of justice to God. It's not the third recommendation, the third suggestion. It's the third commandment. God commands that we go to Mass, that we worship Him on Sunday as a community. That's the virtue of religion comes under the virtue of justice. It's a subset of it. Okay? So, prudence, justice, giving God His due, okay, what we owe Him, worship, adoration, first of all, and man, okay, giving others their due. We have to be fair with others, be honest with others, okay? And temperance, what is temperance? Say temperance. What is... actually, justice concerns the will. Temperance concerns the will, okay? So what is temperance? Becky, you said temperance. What is it? When we say temperance, if you're a temperate person, What are you doing? How do you practice temperance? What does that mean? I'll just write a word here. Moderation. All things are good in moderation. People come to me, they say, Father, I got drunk, I drank too much. I said, all things are good in moderation. It's all right to have a drink or two, or even 3 or 4 during the whole night. If you're eating something, you're not going to get drunk. But to down, a 12-pack of beer in an hour, that's not moderation, okay? No. To have a drink is fine. A drink of wine, or maybe 2 glasses of wine, but to drink a bottle of wine, you're not moderating, okay? No, it's immoderate. Okay? So, temperance is moderation in our desire, moderation in accordance with right reason. Okay? So we're talking about being reasonable. In accord with right reason. Okay? We're reasonable beings. God gives us a mind and intellect. Okay? Regarding our desire, okay? Desire for pleasure, in food, drink, sex. Okay? You have a natural inclination to want to satisfy pleasure through sexual acts. That has to be moderated. Okay? There are rules for this. It's not a free-for-all. Okay? No. So prudence, justice, temperance. The 4th cardinal virtue is fortitude. And this concerns the will also. Okay? And I'll write up here fortitude. So everyone can see. Fortitude, will. When we're talking about fortitude, what are we talking about? What is fortitude? I like to give it another term. Okay? In the Christian mentality. Okay? Fortitude, the great philosophers, Aristotle, Plato, they came to a knowledge and they talked about prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance. The 4 natural virtues. Okay? Naturally, these are the 4 most important virtues to live a virtuous life. Okay? But as Christians, we can call fortitude something else. I like to call it Christian courage. Christian courage. When we say you have fortitude, and this is the virtue that we concentrate on. Are all of you making your confirmation this year? Junior, you're usually making your confirmation. Okay. This is the sacrament, or the virtue that you really focus on in making your confirmation. Because, the explanation of fortitude. When we say someone has fortitude, what do we mean? Dina, can you think? You say fortitude. Someone has fortitude, what is that? You can say it's moral strength, okay? Moral strength, okay? Our fortitude is in essence, doing good in spite of difficulties, okay? Doing good in spite of difficulties. Life's full of difficulties, right? Things are tough. Okay? And we have to, perseverance is part of fortitude. We persevere. Okay? And doing good in spite of difficulties is fortitude. And and to overcome fear, this is where courage comes in, okay? To overcome fear and remain firm, okay? Remain firm and steadfast, okay, in the face of obstacles, okay. I'm tired, I don't want to do my homework, I'll just forget about it. No, I'll just do it even though I'm tired, okay. I'm tired, I don't want to pray. It's late in the day, I haven't prayed all day. That's why it's good to set a time for prayer. The end of the day comes, you're too tired, and you don't pray. Okay? Good to set a time for prayer. I'm going to pray at this time. Okay? In the face of obstacles, in the face of difficulties, okay? Overcome fear, remain firm. The martyrs exhibited fortitude. Throw just a little incense into the pot here, into the charcoal, to the pagan god, and you'll live. That's the early Christians. That was all they had to do. Just go throw a little incense in, and you'll live. If you don't throw incense in, we throw you to the lions. So what do? You say, I can't throw incense in, because I know this is false worship. And it would cause scandal for people who would see me, a Christian, doing this, giving honor and worship to a pagan god that's not true, objective reality, okay? The pagan gods, or the emperor thought he was a god, you know that, right? The Roman emperors thought they were gods, okay? He had big egos. And they weren't gods. They didn't act virtuously, a lot of them. Some of them did, some of them didn't. Okay? Nero killed his own kids and his wife. He used to dress up in animal outfits and rape kids and people, and did horrible things. Okay? And he thought he was a god. Well, the martyrs exhibited fortitude, strength, in the face of obstacles. They overcame their fear. And all those four moral virtues that I just outlined, okay, these are things. A virtue is a good habit. If you keep doing it over and over, what happens? Patrick, what happens if you keep doing?
That virtue will grow. Or like
Virtue will grow, and it becomes a habit, which means
that you will do it all the time. It becomes second nature.
it becomes second nature. Good, you remember that, second nature, and not with great difficulty, but with ease. Okay, with ease. Like driving a car. Okay, now it's easy to drive a car. When you first started driving a car, it wasn't easy. You had to concentrate every move. Oh, am I going to make a mistake? Am I going to crash? How many people, raise your hand, had a little crash after the first month of driving, first couple of months? I did. Because we're not, estimating things correctly, okay? Yeah, usually people, if they get in an accident, it's within the first couple of months when they learn how to drive. They get their driver's license, and they're not too good at backing out of garages or going around curves or something, okay? But after you develop the habit of driving, it's second nature for you, okay? You don't have to concentrate, okay? Now, justice, okay? Back to our topic here of justice. That's second moral virtue. Okay, justice is the key, okay? The key virtue, key moral virtue, cardinal virtue, okay? Key moral or cardinal virtue. In social relations. Okay? We're talking about the church's social teaching. We're really concerned about this right here. We're concerned about justice. Okay? I just read in the paper today the gap between the richest and the poorest is greater than it's ever been since 1928, right before the stock market fell. The richest 1% own, I don't know, it's like 14% of the total wealth in this country, and the wealthiest 10% is 40%. That leaves a lot of people without the means to live a good, dignified life. Okay? There's something out of whack here. Okay? The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. That's what's happening in our society. That's not just. Okay? Something's wrong here. And in this class, we're going to study how to make it right. There are principles that the church teaches how to achieve justice in society. Okay? So justice is a key virtue in social relations. Okay? Because justice, what? It disposes one to be concerned about the rights of others. Okay? Because it disposes us to be concerned, okay, with others, okay, with their good, with their livelihood, you know, their ability to live a dignified life. Okay? That's what justice is. Now, I'm going to put something, after I erase this, on the screen here. If I can get it to work, we'll see. Of bad philosophers. I gave you, that example, the three circles that intersected, okay? Objective reality, people's perceptions of objective reality, and people's expressions of their perceptions of objective reality. God bless you. And I said sometimes philosophies are not good. They're not in accord with objective reality. I'm going to show you now this little instruction that I've prepared for today, how some philosophers influenced even our modern culture to think the way it does today. Okay? And a lack of clarity of thought, and erroneous thought. Zoom is not with us now. Are we there? Okay, good. Now. Okay. European Enlightenment philosophers, like Hobbes, Locke, and Voltaire, I'll discuss their names in a few minutes, who influenced the founding fathers, by the way, of our country. Okay? They put forth ideas of skepticism, empiricism, their thinking on the human nature and the soul. Okay? Now, when we talk about the Enlightenment, how many have heard of the Enlightenment? Ever heard that term? Okay. It refers to a philosophical movement, writers and philosophers, 17th to 18th centuries, who claimed that man had now come of age out of his infancy by using his reason, rather than depending upon revelation from God to discover truths about man, about the world. And, well, this was part of this movement, was a result of the scientific age coming about. Okay, now we can use our reason to solve all the problems of man. We don't need religion. Okay, we're enlightened now. Okay, so this was characterized by rationalism. Okay, rationalism means a system of thought which holds that human reason is self-sufficient, doesn't need to be enlightened by God to know all that's necessary for personal society well-being. Okay? We don't need God. We don't need the Bible, religion. Okay? All we have to do is use our reason. Okay? That's rationalism. That's rationalism. The Enlightenment thinkers were also skeptics. Skepticism in social political thought. Okay? Skepticism holds that the real truth about things, human nature, good and evil, cannot be known with certainty. We just can't know about human nature. Okay? We can't know really what's right and wrong. Okay? We have all these doubts. And finally, and the most dangerous, empiricism. Okay? And you don't have to write this down. Okay? This is backgrounds to give you just a knowledge of the problems in philosophy dating back several hundred years. Okay? Empiricism in moral philosophy is a system of thought, okay, which holds that the only source of knowledge is experience. And it denies that our mind can arrive at universal concepts. For example, this is a dog, that's a dog, okay. I have a universal concept of a dog. Okay? They deny that our minds can do this. And also they deny that we can make judgments about the nature of things. Okay? Well, we've already talked about how our mind can make judgments on the nature of things. We can know something's nature, we can know its essence, okay? Rather, they said that our minds can only process sense data from a series of experiences. Therefore, we cannot speak of human nature as such, but only individual human beings who appear to have similar characteristics. We have to study each human being, but we can't talk about human nature as a whole. Okay? You see, this doesn't make sense, this philosophy, but this is what the Enlightenment thinkers put forward. Okay? And consequently, okay, there are consequences to bad thinking. If there's no such thing as human nature, then there can be no universally true moral laws for our human mind to accept, and no universally binding moral laws for our will to obey, since all our knowledge is conditioned on our limited past experience or future experience that we don't know about the future. Okay? What the Enlightenment thinkers were wanting to do was free themselves from Christian morality. That's what they wanted to do. One of them we're going to discuss in just a few minutes, Voltaire. He was shacking up with women, okay? Well, because this philosophy allowed him to do that. We can't know about human nature. We can't know about human laws that everyone has to follow. We'll make up our own laws, our own rules to live by. What, does that sound familiar? Eat this apple, eat this fruit, and you will be like God. That's what we're talking about, okay? So, and then, to continue here, skepticism, and especially empiricism, leads to relativism, which in philosophy holds that there's no absolute truth. Okay? There's no such thing as truth for everyone. Rather, truth depends on the individual person. What's true for me may not be true for you. Okay? You may, I'll go back to the Lincoln-Douglas debates. Okay? Justice William Douglas from Illinois, running for senator, said, you know, I'm personally opposed to slavery, but I'm not going to force my opinion on others. And what does Abraham Lincoln say in response? He says, well, Mr. Douglas, you know, if slavery is wrong, then it's wrong. And we can't allow it, okay? So, you just can't say, you know, it's up to someone's personal choice whether they agree or not, because this has consequences on people. Some people are enslaved, okay? So that's relativism. Or truth depends upon time, place, and circumstances. Okay? Skepticism and empiricism also lead to moral relativism. And this holds there are no unchangeable principles of human behavior, no moral laws which apply to everyone, because there's no absolute truth, or there's no inherently evil actions that are evil for everyone. Since whether something's good or evil depends upon circumstances or social approval. If everyone's doing it, it's okay, right? If everyone's having sex before marriage, well, then it's okay. We can do it. We take a poll, and 80% of the people think that that's okay. Well, you know, apply this to stealing. Okay? If 80% of the people think stealing is okay, are we going to allow theft? No. They only say this in regard to morality, okay? Because this allows them license to do what they want to do, okay? And I give some examples here. So if most people today think shacking up, I use the term shacking up because married people live together, unmarried people shack up. Okay? So, or abortion or same-sex marriage, you can go through a whole list of things. Okay? Okay. Even though almost everyone thought this was wrong in the past, it's acceptable now because, you know, times have changed and we got to get with it. And okay, well, we become gods in essence, deciding for ourselves what's right and wrong. Now, here are some philosophers These are biggies in the philosophic history, okay? Enlightenment thinkers, Thomas Hobbes, he was a British empiricist, okay? And Thomas Hobbes, these are his dates, okay? He mocked the idea of an immaterial soul. Oh, come on. Only believe in material things that we can weigh and measure, okay? Denied the existence of spiritual reality. Only matter exists. He was a materialist, okay? He denied the notion of universal concepts, okay? We can know human nature, or the nature of a dog, or whatever. This is a quote from him. He denied that there can be things universal, that a living thing is a genus or a general thing. Well, I mean, in biology, we classify things by genus, right? He's denying this. So, is his perception of objective reality in accord with objective reality? Oh, doubtful. Okay. John Locke, okay, another British empiricist. The Founding Fathers read his works. For example, Thomas Jefferson quoted from him in the Declaration of Independence. Okay? So he's supposed to be a great light. Locke thought that we cannot speak of the fixed nature of things or hold with certainty the notion of human nature. This is a quote from one of his works. I have made some suppositions that will look strange to some readers. You better believe it's going to be strange to some, okay? Regarding this ignorance we are in. See the skepticism, okay? Of the nature of that thing that is in us. He's talking about the soul, okay? And which we look on as ourselves. Did we know what it was? Or how was it tied to a certain system of fleeting animal spirits? Are our souls related to the animal spirits? Okay? Or whether it could or could not perform its operations of thinking and memory out of the body? Well, you know, he's just we say waxing philosophic, but not with good philosophy. And he put forth some bizarre ideas, for example, on the soul. Okay, he says, but taking, as we ordinarily do, in the dark concerning these matters, because we're skeptics and we can't know things, the soul of a man for an immaterial substance, there can be no absurdity at all to suppose that the soul may at different times be united to different bodies, and with them make up for that time one man. So, you know, my soul could be in you, and your soul could be in me, and or one soul could be in all of us. We don't know. Well, this is totally out of keeping with the Greek philosophers thought, which the whole Christian tradition thought. Okay, this is his essay concerning human understanding. Okay, Locke also hypothesized that God could endow inanimate matter with the capacity for thought. Rocks, for example. Okay, for I see no contradiction in it that the first eternal being, thinking being. Okay, he admitted to God. He wasn't a materialist like Hobbes was. Okay. Or the omnipotent spirit should, if he please, give to certain systems of created senseless matter, put together as he thinks fit, some degree of sense, perception, and thought. Okay? Well, rocks have souls, okay? And rocks could think and have sense. Okay? The dirt outside, the rocks. I would say he's not in touch with objective reality. This was his philosophy, okay? So, bad philosophy produces bad things, and I say here, okay, both Hobbes and Locke denied that God implants in our soul, our human nature, any moral rules of conduct for all to follow. Rather, as empiricists, right and wrong are developed through our experience in social norms. Morality is dependent upon social norms, social consensus. Therefore, morality is changeable, relativistic, relative to what the majority think. Abortion, premarital sex, same-sex marriage, whatever. Okay. So, if society changes, then morality changes. Is that the gospel? No. Okay. And you know, they're really thinking here only of sexual morality. That's the thing. Because they wouldn't agree that you know, stealing is wrong and lying. That could be okay if everyone agrees to it. No, it's really talking about sexual license. That's at the bottom of this. And they're dishonest in not saying it. But that's really where they're heading with this. And here's another great Enlightenment thinker, okay? His name is Voltaire, okay? Great French Enlightenment thinker who was influenced by Locke, okay? And this is what he says, okay? He's speaking of Locke. He says, perhaps no man has ever been more judicious or more methodical genius than Mr. Locke. Before his time, several great philosophers had declared in the most positive terms what the soul of man is. But as these absolutely knew nothing about it, what? So Plato, Aristotle, St. Thomas Aquinas, St. Augustine, they knew nothing about the soul. Okay? This is intellectual arrogance and just bad philosophy. Okay. So as these absolutely knew nothing about it, they might very well be allowed to differ entirely in opinion from one another. Well, the fact is that the great philosophers in the past didn't differ. They were in accord with this. They all agreed what the soul was, and the Christians and even the pre-Christians. So he's not being honest here. Mr. Locke has displayed the human soul in the same manner as an excellent anatomist explains the springs of the human body. He everywhere takes the light of physics for his guide. What? Physics? When you're talking about the soul? What does physics... Who is taking physics? Anyone taking physics here? You haven't taken physics yet? They teach physics here? Next year. Okay. I remember I took it as my senior year. Okay. So what does physics deal with? Physics. Physics, the word itself. The physical world, okay? So, Mr. Locke has looked at the soul like in the light of physics, okay, for his guide. What? You know? I would say that with regard to its immortality, it is impossible to give a demonstration of it, since its nature is still the subject of controversy. Well, we're skeptics and we just doubt. We can't say that the soul is immortal. Well, you know, philosophers for thousands of years before this thought it was immortal, and the whole Christian tradition says the soul is immortal. You come along and you say Mr. Locke has given us great insights by looking at the soul in light of physics. These were the great minds of the 17th and 18th century that influenced the whole world. Okay? They influenced people's thinking even to today. Okay? Now, I'll raise this up a little more, okay? And I conclude here, if man has no fixed human nature and end, okay, if he's not created in the image and likeness of God, we can say that as Christians, okay? If we cannot know how man should act, we just have doubts because we can't say this. Okay? And if even inanimate matter, stones and rocks, can be endowed by God with sense perception and irrational thinking, then moral relativism follows. This follows. We're living in an age of moral relativism because of the thinkers I've just shown you. Now, I spent time putting this together because most of you may never have a philosophy class going off to college, because many universities don't give a good liberal arts education anymore. You may be required to take one philosophy course, but it could be in studying John Locke, and not from a critical point of view either. Okay, so file this away in your memory. Okay, this is to keep for your life. Okay? So you can articulate a good response to people who are moral relativists. Tomorrow, you're going to listen to a talk on relativism. That's the title of the talk. Okay? It's given by the youth minister of the Archdiocese of Denver, Colorado. I forget the man's name. Let me see. I've got it here. Where is it? Relativism, do you know how it is affecting you? Chris Stefanik, okay? He's the father of, I think, 6 or 7 kids. And Chris Stefanik is going to talk about relativism. I've given you the philosophic background to what he's going to talk about tomorrow. Okay? And all you have to do, I have 40 questions for this talk. 40, okay? Every minute you're going to have to write a little response, okay?